There you go. So if you don't know who we are, I'm Joe.
And I'm Rachel.
And we're the Two Crazy Ketos.
We are indeed.
And so back in 2017, I discovered the keto lifestyle, like a lot of people, to lose weight. I had no idea about the health benefits or anything like that. I entered into a weight loss bet with 10 people at church, including our pastor. Kind of weird to have a bet with your pastor. But I weighed well over 300 pounds. How much? I don't know, because when I saw 297 pounds on the scale, I never got on the scale again, because I figured if I don't see 300, it doesn't actually exist.
It didn't happen.
Okay, but I did go up 4 sizes between when I saw that and when I started keto. So since then, I lost well over 100 pounds, probably about 130 pounds.
And I've lost 170.
And so we do this for community, okay? And people have asked us, like, why do you continue to do this? And a lot of it, like Bronson really hit home with me, Natalie really hit home with me, because I've done all the cheat things and kind of convinced myself and all the extreme things, but everything for us has always been about our long-term health. Why don't you eat bread anymore, Joe? Because as our good friend Steve from Keto Chest says, pain is a powerful motivator. And when you spent 26 years taking Vicodin and Oxycontin and arthritis medication every single day for 26 years, and all of a sudden you don't need to do that anymore, that's a motivator for me.
It really is. And I just want to challenge you, just like Coach Bronson and Coach Natalie said, that I am ... that's a powerful thing. And I'm going to ask you to catch yourself when you find yourself saying, I am keto, I am carnivore, I am this sort of person, because what happens is you may miss out on what a speaker would have to say, because you're thinking right away, well, if those Two Crazy Ketos, they're keto, and I'm not keto, I'm low carb, or I'm carnivore, I'm paleo, or whatever, you may miss out on something good that they have to say, right? So can we suspend the banner for just this week? I mean, I thought it was funny. I don't think that you guys that have, Michelle, you didn't have anybody say, a speaker say, well, I'm not coming on this unless you change it to the carnivore cruise instead of low carb, right? And you got on this cruise, whether you were low carb identifying or not, right? So it means that we can suspend that banner for a week.
The best thing that Dr. Berry did was come up with the term proper human diet. And can we agree, at least for on this cruise, we're all on the proper human diet. I don't care if you're keto, carnivore, paleo, whatever you are, none is better than the other, okay? I have very strong feelings on that. You'll find that out in our panel with Michelle later on. But carnivore isn't better than keto, paleo is not better than it. We're all on the proper human diet. The enemy is the over-processed foods that the food companies are trying to sell us. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're gonna hit some nerves today. We're gonna talk about something that was presented to me when I got started on keto, and we're gonna talk about, is your way of eating truly sustainable? And I'm gonna tell you bluntly, for probably 98% of the people in this room, the way you're thinking right now, what we're gonna talk about, number one, is not what we're gonna talk about. But more importantly, if you're just getting all of your food from a grocery store, your way of eating right now is not sustainable. Okay, so let's start off with this. We are not Joel Salatin, Greg Judy, or Peter Ballerstadt.
We are not.
So if you don't know who these people are, we're too close to microphones. If you don't know who these people are, they're really very involved in agriculture. I'm really excited, like Joel Salatin is actually going to be speaking at Meatstock next year. He's kind of like the godfather of regenerative farming in the United States. I will encourage you, if you have not seen the movie, go download it, get the Angel Network. There's a documentary on him called The Lunatic Farmer. And it's really all about how we could end food shortages in the United States if all the farmers would go to regenerative farming.
Yeah.
It's really amazing when you see that he's come up with ways to raise 3 times the livestock on half of the land that these big feedlots are doing, and it's healthier food.
They are truly cool, and we are not them.
That is not them.
Yeah.
So we are 2 average Joes.
These are some before pictures.
Who got well on keto, and we Zillow search every place we go.
I did. I Zillow search living in Seattle. Did anybody else, like, do you go someplace and you're like, how much would it cost to live here? All the time, right? Like, how much? When you go to Alaska, it is fun. Ask your drivers, how much do things cost? It is really, really interesting.
I will tell you, this is probably one of the most annoying things about living with Rachel, because she does it on my email address.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I don't want that junk email.
And I opened up my email and there's Ocala horse properties for sale. When we get home, I guarantee you I will find all of these properties for sale in Skagway, in Juneau, in Seattle. And speaking of Alaska, let's give you an example, because we actually did this already. Did you know in Sitka, Alaska, the median listing home price in February of 2025 was $688,800. Now compare that to the national median home price of $419,200.
But you sort of expect it.
Yes.
I mean, you expect it's going to cost a lot of money, right? Why? Because Alaska, all right? You're in Alaska, and it's harder to get stuff, and it's harder to keep stuff.
So let's talk about why is everything so expensive in Alaska? Okay, why are things cost so much money? Well, number one, high transportation costs. Most goods have to be flown in or shipped in to be in Alaska.
Even their tourism, we're getting shipped in right now, right?
Hey, you're off camera.
Oh, sorry. Now,
There's no camera.
Just a PSA so y'all know, none of you need to start a keychain collection on this cruise, all right? Y'all don't need any more sweaters than what you already have purchased. I'm saving you money right now, okay? So yes, there's gonna be some beautiful things in all the ports, but we don't need all of it. Yeah. Can I get an amen? That's right.
So number two, there was limited competition, fewer stores and suppliers in small town. One store might be the only option. Now, we recently moved from the city to the country, and we can tell you this is such a thing. We've coined the term for ourselves, at least. It's called the small town tax. We lived 5 minutes from 3 different Home Depots. Now we live 35 minutes from the closest Home Depot. So what that means is I have to decide, do I want to spend 2 hours to go to the store that I live in every single day of my life right now? Or do I want to go to the local Ace Hardware store and pay 20% more, but it's only going to take me 10 minutes because it's a small town tax?
Yeah. The other thing,
then we have higher costs.
You have the higher cost of living and wages. So employers in Alaska have to pay more to attract and then also to retain workers. And these higher wages and operational costs, it's going to get passed down to the consumers, right? They're not just going to eat that money.
So what is the conclusion?
For us,
we can't afford to live in Sitka, Alaska.
We can't move to Sitka, Alaska. We just can't. Even if we could sell everything that we owned in one of our kidneys, we could maybe buy the house, but we wouldn't be able to maintain the life there.
Plus,
right?
It's too cold.
How many people have you ever met that bought some expensive puppy, but they really don't have the money for a vet bill or to feed them what they need to do? So they could buy the puppy, but they couldn't sustain the puppy.
So we like to spend our days, and this is our full-time job, talking about making things sustainable. And this is how we do it. We actually have 3 different YouTube channels. It's Two Crazy Ketos for the keto lifestyle, Two Crazy Campers for the camping lifestyle, and we have now become farmers, so we have a homesteading channel called the Double K Farm.
Come watch us be idiots and make all kinds of mistakes. But that's part of it, right? Is letting people journey with us and see what works for them.
So what is sustainable for us?
Keto. Keto has been sustainable.
Now, again, we're going to plug here keto. We're going to plug in the proper human diet. Okay, yeah. So this isn't not like if you're a carnivore, this doesn't apply. It applies to you. If you're a carnivore, this probably applies to you even more. Okay, so but keto, proper human diet.
Now, what do we mean when we say that keto is actually sustainable for us? We mean that it is, number one, it's possible for us to eat mostly meat with some occasional fruits and vegetables for entertainment purposes. That was something that Chris Beer first told us. And we are willing to do it. There's 2 components. We're willing to do the thing, and then we can do the thing because we have access to the resources that we need to make it sustainable.
Now, here's the thing. We spend about 75% of our time on, am I willing to do it? And if you're here on this cruise, you have said, I'm willing to at least think about giving up pasta, grain, sugar, carbohydrates, all of those other things.
And
right?
For some people, that's the daily expenditure of all of their mental energy. They look in the mirror and they say, am I keto today? Am I standard American diet today? Am I 75 hard today? Like, what am I? What am I willing to do? And we think, well, that's all there is to the pie chart, but that's not the only thing.
No, because we have the is it possible. Now, we know it's possible because people have done it. Many people in this room have been eating a keto carnivore lifestyle for years. So it is possible to do it, but that's not what we want to talk about. We want to look at something a little bit differently. A willingness to follow a proper human diet is to not the only obstacle to sustainability of a proper human diet.
And we found that because by 2018, Joe no longer needed a wheelchair. I mean, that is a difference. That is something, mobility, walking around this ship is a privilege. Toting around his grandbaby in Disney is a privilege that we celebrate daily. And I no longer need any mental health medication anymore. I am healed in my body. My mother has reversed 20 plus years of type 2 diabetes off 18 different medications and living better at 75 than she did when she was in her 20s.
So for us, we are all in the willingness department to do this.
Yeah, we're all in.
But then there was 2020.
And we like to call that the Voldemort year. Did y'all live through the Voldemort year? Oh my gracious. It was something different.
What we realized in 2020 is our way of eating may not be as sustainable as we think it is.
Yeah.
Okay, because what happened in 2020? Our grocery stores were often out of things other than just toilet paper.
Because the fact of the matter is, we eat products like meat and eggs that have to be refrigerated. It was like they were the first to go. And what happens when the meat and the eggs are not available? Like, we live in Florida. Hurricane season is a thing. This is not like a fear-based talk. This is just, hey, when you're preparing for what's going to happen the year, depending on where you live, there may be shortages of things for whatever reason. And in Florida, sometimes the power goes out and you got to think about what you're going to do. In the past, what would we do, Joe? In the past,
we would panic.
Well, and we would go back
to eating the other stuff. And here's the thing.
Pork and beans, macaroni and cheese out of a box, because you were just, I got to get myself through this little season.
So, we live in Florida and you hear, there's natural disasters in every part of the country, right? And I like Florida because with Florida, yes, we have hurricanes. We were talking to Dr. Boz earlier, her house got destroyed last year. But here's the thing, we get like a week to 2 week notice that, hey, there is a hurricane coming. You know it's coming. The problem with that is every time the news says that, that's what the grocery store looks like.
Yeah.
Because everybody runs and buys all the water and everything else. And what we realized was with 2020, this was not going to be an option anymore. We could not go back to this in the case of a supply chain issue.
Right.
So we weren't interested in having fear things either.
No, but we decided to have a discussion amongst ourselves for our family. What were we going to do? Because maybe this could be a thing in the future. How are we going to prepare? So we're just letting you in on our dinner table discussion.
So we said, we had to ask ourselves, do we know a guy that I can buy real food from when there is a supply chain shortage?
Dr. Barry always talks about you don't have to do keto with panda massage beef, right? But if you are somebody who's like, hey, I want grass-fed, grass-finished, or I want a certain type of meat, if you do find that you feel healthier with panda massage beef, well, do you know two people with pandas? Because if you don't, the thing that right now is the deal breaker for you, would you be able to resource it if the one place that you guarantee to get stuff was out of business or was short of supply? So, fact, many keto and carnivore staples, such as high quality meats and eggs and dairy and healthy fats, and are are subject to supply chain disruptions. Yeah, and
it's just a fact.
Yeah, because they're kept cold.
Here's another fact.
Prices fluctuate significantly due to economic and environmental factors. And we saw that once again recently.
With the egg shortage.
The egg shortage. It went up 41%. How many people you're like, whoa, you noticed that eggs went up in price? I got chickens. Yeah, right? Some of us, how did we pivot with it? Some of us got chickens, right? And some of us found other local farmers to resource their eggs, because not only did it go up in price, it also, for some people, the supply was gone.
Now, here's a really scary fact.
Yeah, because we have to ask ourselves, how do you pivot when there's a shortage? And you may think, well, everybody that has decided that eggs are really good for them, and this is life, and I mean, eggs are the thing, they're going to keep with the trend, right? If I have to pay more, I'm still going to buy the egg. No.
Look at this survey. One survey found that over 60% of Americans just chose to eat fewer eggs as the prices rose. While the plant-based substitute, like the mung bean-based just egg substitute, quintupled. That means everybody just stopped buying eggs and they went and bought fake eggs made with a bunch of chemicals. That's what they did.
And so for us, your health matters to us. I want you to be able to sustain what you found out works for you. So I don't want you to make the pivot where you just jump off and say, well, for this period, I'm going to just embrace inflammation for a while.
That wasn't an option for us. This is what we looked like before keto, by the way, if you've never seen what we looked like.
Yeah, we don't have the option of going back to the way that we used to eat. And neither did my mama.
So we started
pretty good for 75, I think.
We started to do the math. For somebody to consume 2,000 calories of beef per day, they're going to need to consume about 1.74 pounds of beef every single day.
So how much does that cost?
Well, the average price of beef in the United States right now is $5.79 a pound. So what would that cost to feed that person for a year? $3,677.23.
That's sustainable.
That's not that bad.
That's
right?
sustainable.
That's a Starbucks cup of coffee per day.
I can do that. Now we started to get to think, but wait a second, there's not just Rachel or Joe, there's Rachel and Joe. And that is the desire of all of us. How many people have we come in contact with that are really just hoping that their spouse or somebody else in their family will join them in this way of eating, right? We want them to join. Well, what happens if there's two of us? How much is that going to cost?
$7,354.46. And again, this is just the beef. That's all you're going to eat. You're going to eat 2,000 calories of beef per day.
Yeah.
Okay? But what happens if the prices don't stay at $5.79 per pound? So for example,
right now, if you were in Honolulu, Hawaii, because of how much it takes to get the food to there, you would be paying $9.97 a pound. Right now, that's the price. You go into their grocery store, that's how much you're paying for beef. Now, how much would that change?
Just under $14,000.
Or 13.
13,000.
So we had to start to think, okay, well, we could swing that right now, and this is very important to us right now.
Speak for yourself.
But would I be able to do that into my senior years?
Now, here's
year
the thing.
after year.
I'm not trying to scare you, but this is not that far from a reality in the United States, in the mainland, okay? Because right now, if you don't know, there are billionaires buying up all the grazing land in the United States because they want to sell their artificial, plant-based, lab-grown meat. And
Garbage.
They're buying up all the grazing land so that the farmers and the cattlemen have to pay them 5 times more money, and that's why the cost of beef is going up. So this is not, like, this could happen in the mainland soon.
Yeah.
So what can we do to make the grocery store a source of food instead of our only source of food?
That began the search. That was the question that really led to this presentation.
And so the rest of the presentation for the next 20 minutes, we want to talk about some ways that you can do this too.
So I'm going to go closer to this so that I can make sure I can read properly.
So start online.
So we started with an online search, and that's something that everybody could do, right? We went to places like localharvest.org because there you can search for farms, farmers markets, and CSA programs by zip code.
You can also look at eatwild.com, which is a good source for finding pasture-raised, grass-fed, grass-finished meats. And not just cattle. You can find eggs, you can find sheep and lamb and goat and everything else on there.
And this is an online search. It's not a bad investment of my time. I'm sitting there looking at Temu. Might as well go ahead and move it to an online search of something besides sparkly tops, right?
You can look at farmmatch.com, which is a great place for local co-ops and raw milks and things like that.
You can also look at just basic Facebook marketplaces because many local farmers, like us, advertise their eggs and meat shares and their dairy here.
I'm gonna get out of the way so people can see the screen. And then you can search for local food co-ops or buyers clubs from areas that source from local farms.
Now, you can end your search right there. You can find some more ways to keep the way you eat sustainable for yourself just with this online search. But if you'd like to go a little bit deeper, the next thing that you could do is start networking.
And this is a great thing that you can do because you can look on places like Facebook groups and the buy and seller trade, and then just put like your town homesteader in Facebook, and you will find loads of places that you can get food from local farmers and markets and things like that. And I can tell you, if you go on my Facebook right now, like I don't post anything on Facebook unless it's part of Two Crazy Ketos, and that's mostly her job. But my Facebook feed is nothing but local farms and chicken places and everything like that because I'm trying to learn and network with different people.
You can also ask at local health food stores because the staff actually may know how and where to get local grass-fed and organic meat and
How many
dairy.
people shop in Whole Foods? Did you know that most of the meat that's in Whole Foods comes from local farms? And a lot of times there is a sign right there on the glass that says what the local farm is. So you can say, oh, they're getting their meat from this local farm. Go find that local farm. Go back to Dr. Google and search for that local farm, and then go see if you can purchase the meat directly from that farm and cut out Whole Foods.
Well, and also you may want to have eyes on that farm, right? Because they are saying we raise our animals this way. You may want to go take a look and see, are they really like farming the way that you believe is the best?
And then we can talk to local butchers and meat producers because they often know who all the good local farmers are.
How many people have a local butcher? It's like outside of just a regular grocery store. That is a relationship that can be such a blessing. They can show you what is the value cut of meat. How do I prepare it? They know things that like we just don't know. So they can really be a blessing.
Oh, see, now you open up the door. So value cut of meat. Stop buying tomahawk steaks. It's a scam.
Yes.
No, any good butcher will actually tell you it's the biggest scam in the butcher's market because they're selling you it for twice the price because it looks pretty, but you're paying for a bone. It's a ribeye steak with a giant bone on it.
It's not
That's
Jurassic.
all it is. Okay, so in-person options, you can visit farmers markets and vendors and ask how and why they raise their animals.
Well, and I believe that this step here, where you're starting to like step away from your computer or step away from the phone and you're actually going out, it's not work. It's dating. It's joy. It's exploring your area. That wasn't something that we ever did, but once we started getting out, we'd go on drives. It provided a really lovely Saturday afternoon.
And I will encourage you to, when you go to farmers markets, talk to the farmers that are selling stuff there. Ask them if you can go out to their farm. If you come out to our farm right now, you will see 50 chickens and about 40 turkeys running around on 6.5 acres. They never go inside except for at night in their coop. They literally can do whatever they want, drink from whenever they want. They're eating bugs. Our feed costs are very minimal because they're eating out in nature, and people can see this is how their animals are raised. So you want to go out to these local farms and see how are they raising. Ask them. And if they're not willing to talk to you about how they raise their animals and what they're feeding them, consider looking somewhere else. What are they hiding?
Yeah. The next thing you can do is go to local feed stores, even Tractor Supply, and check out their bulletin boards because a lot of local farmers actually advertise there.
You can attend county fairs and agricultural expos to network with local producers.
You can also drive rural back roads and keep an eye out for eggs for sale and meat shares that are available. And this is something that we really enjoy doing when we are RVing. We do a lot of camping. We travel all over the country. And when we're out, it's really nice to get fresh food, and we find that fresh food by looking for those little signs, and we'll get to a campground and set up, and then I will get my bicycle out and I'll ride over to that farm on my bicycle and be able to have, fresh eggs that were just laid that morning.
And then finally, you can ask around at your church or your community groups. So we found families in Fort Lauderdale that were raising quail and chickens in their backyards. They were going on small hunting and fishing in groups and sharing the meat from the food that they caught.
Yeah, so that can also become, when we found out that people were going on fishing trips and they were going on hunting trips, you participate in that. Now you're taking another step in making friends, having fun. How many could use one more friend? Have you cut off all of your friendships? No, right? We can always afford to have one more friend.
So speaking of friendships, we can build relationships. So you can talk to your local restaurant owners who serve farm-to-table dishes. They may share their sources. We recently went to an animal auction. That's our date thing, is Friday nights. We go to a local small animal auction. It's kind of weird. But Rachel met a gentleman who supplies duck eggs to all the local restaurants, and he gave her his name and his phone number. And now when we want fresh duck eggs until we start raising our own ducks, we can go directly to the source, and he is supplying all of the local restaurants with fresh farm-raised duck eggs.
And he happens to be selling his duck eggs. So restaurants, if you, at least in the Florida area, if they have to go through like a restaurant chain, like to provide their eggs, it's $23 a dozen for duck eggs. Well, how much is that going to cost you if you order something like that that's using duck eggs? Well, he's selling it to the restaurant for $18, so that's a significant savings to them. Well, if I go directly to him, it's $9 a dozen. So now I can look at my plate every morning and be like, I am eating like a fancy plutocrat right now, right?
So you can reach out to 4-H clubs and FFA chapters, because sometimes you can buy the livestock directly from the students, and this is really important. So if you don't know much about 4-H, these kids are learning how to raise animals. They are paying for all of that, the feed, the animals, and everything out of their own pocket. At the end of the year, the best animals get to go to the local county fair, and they get shown off, and they can win prizes, and they get auctioned off for big money. Like we were watching cattle at our county fair go for $12,000 for a single. Now, again, it was local community trying to support the kids, but all the kids, animals who didn't make it there, they're stuck at home. And now these kids have to figure out, what do I do with this animal? Otherwise, I can't raise one next year. So they will sell it to you for food. Plus, you're supporting the next generation, because right now in the United States, young people are not taking up farming. And if we don't begin to support these young kids and having them learn how to raise livestock and be farmers, there will be food shortages, because there will be nobody for us to raise our animals. The other thing I wanted to mention real quick, I know we only have 12 minutes left, but when you go to these local farmers markets, don't be afraid of signs that say, not for human consumption.
Yes.
Okay, those are end runs around the rules. A lot of us don't know, and we didn't know until we got into farming, that the rules and regulations for selling meat are ridiculous. For example, in the state of Florida, you cannot sell eggs unless they have been washed, refrigerated, and disinfected with bleach.
You can't buy pasture-raised chicken except it be washed with bleach. How many people knew that actually the chickens you're buying in the grocery store are washed with bleach?
So the end run around the rules, at least in the state of Florida, is we can get what's called a feed master license. And see, it's perfectly legal and healthy for me to eat this meat on my own and my eggs, and it's perfectly legal and healthy for me to give it to you. But the second I wanted to sell it to you, I have to, for money, I have to go through all these rules. Or I can sell it to you as pet food. And now I don't have to wash the eggs. And you have eggs that will last in your refrigerator for 3 months. Did you know that the eggs in your refrigerator at home that you bought in a grocery store are generally, they don't even hit the grocery store till they're 2 months old. So don't be afraid of farmers who have signs that say not for human consumption. That means it's really good fresh meat. You can offer to buy a half or a whole cow or pig with your friends, and then you can split it up.
So we have bought whole cows before, and we really did save money doing that, but maybe you're like, I do not have the freezer space for this. I'm living in the villages right now, right? And I do not have like enough room for me to absorb a cow right now in my little freezer. Well, you can meet other people in the villages and you can say, how about we go in on something together? And what's amazing about that, you can go to a farm and buy just a share, but then you don't get to decide how it's butchered. So you may enjoy roasts more, or you may enjoy steaks more, or you may enjoy ground up meat, beef more. Well, if you go and get the whole cow and your group gets the whole cow, you can decide with the butcher how many roasts is that going to be, or how much ground meat is that going to be.
And finally, you can also, I think there's actually one more, you can volunteer at a local farm, and that's going to give you access and direct relationships with the farmers.
Yeah. And then you can also ask your neighbors or community gardeners, because word of mouth, how many have learned something just because you sat down next to somebody else that was keto or carnivore and you got a tip? You just got a tip. Our whole channel is that, basically. It's word of mouth. I tried this thing, I did this thing, and this is the result. So you find those people, and don't think that every person who's growing a vegetable is the enemy, right? They may also be eating meat. They could be just selling the vegetables and keeping the meat for themselves, right? So see if there's something that you can glean from them.
So what did we discover during our search for more sustainability?
We were surprised, yo. We found out that we actually saved a lot of money and enjoyed better quality food. I didn't know if we were going to be meeting somebody for hamburger in a back alley. Like, I didn't know what it was going to look like. I mean, the first time we got a cow, I thought, we're going to have to get a chainsaw. That carcass is going to be enormous. I didn't even know how, like, the processing situation went. I didn't know that they were going to cut it all up beautifully, wrap it. It was going to be a very beautiful experience. And I certainly didn't expect to save money. But you know what? If you do have a local source of eggs, for instance, and you went through those recent shortages, how many people found that their local egg producer, just that family farm, they didn't raise prices?
Yep.
You were able to actually buy
most
eggs.
of the local farms by us kept their prices at $4 and $5 a dozen, even though the grocery stores were $8 and $9 a dozen. And I can tell you, as somebody who spends a lot of time in those Facebook groups, every once in a while somebody would show up going, I'm going to raise my prices at $10, and the local farmers were all jumped down their back going, why? Your prices didn't go up. It didn't cost you more money to buy feed. Why would you do that to the community? So the cool thing is that a lot of the local farmers keep their prices because they're not impacted by all the federal rules and regulations and everything else. And now, if you did, by the way, switch to a local farmer to get those pasture-raised eggs because eggs in the store were $10, keep going to them.
Yeah.
Stop putting the money back at Walmart and support the local farmer. So we felt better about our purchases because we're now funding the small business farmers raising happy, healthy animals.
You know, sometimes people in the keto and carnivore space really get a bad rap when it comes to animals because that's our sole, really source of food. So you must just hate animals. That couldn't be further from the truth. Do you see those little white woolly guys? That's my pharmacy right there. That's supporting my brain health right there. That is allowing my husband to walk. That has sustained my mother's life. So I want them to live their very best life, and as Autumn used to say, have one bad day.
Yep.
Right?
7 minutes left. So we stopped worrying that there would be a time when we would have to go back to the standard American diet because of our budget and supply chain issues. So we gained the confidence that we needed to start our own suburban backyard flock. So in 2020, actually I think it was like the end of 2019,
yeah,
we were only allowed to have 3 chickens and we had 8, but we did start a backyard flock. Okay. And then because of that, last year we purchased a 6.5 acre farm in Arcadia, Florida. We moved from the city to the country just because we wanted to be more self-sustainable. We bought a farm and we began raising chickens and turkeys. And like I said, right now we have over 50 chickens being pasture raised, and we have about 40 turkeys that we are raising up to sell at Thanksgiving because people pay $200 for a pasture raised turkey. So that's not where it ended, though.
Yes, we got Sarah G is going to see herself up here. We actually learned how to process our own poultry with the help of our friends.
So
look at how happy she is. This is community right here. This is community. Anything you're doing in community, one of you is kind of trepidatious about it, and the other one's like, let's go, buddy. Let's do it.
Interesting because, the chicken that you buy in the store, people say, well, poultry. Yes, we all know that eating ruminant meat is the healthiest meat to eat because of the way they turn the grass into delicious meat. But one of the biggest problems with poultry, especially when you're buying in the grocery food stores, is the conditions that they're raised in, which is kind of scary. If you go investigate chicken farms, you will never eat chicken again from a store. But also the way they're bred and what they're fed. So they're fed like GMO feed and grains. I mean, you see vegetarian fed. Well, chickens are not vegetarians. Anybody who's ever had a chicken knows they'll eat you if you lay down on the coop long enough.
Yeah.
Okay, so we learned that the chickens that we buy in the store go from a single baby 1-day-old chick to a 6-pound chicken to butcher in just 6 weeks. They also begin dying of heart attacks because they grow faster than their organs can keep up. So we wanted to be able to give them that one bad day and raise them where we move them every single day.
Every single day, our animals are moved. Even our meat birds are moved to new pasture land every single day.
And so now we are a local resource for regenerative farm pasture raised poultry.
That escalated quickly, y'all. Like
in less than a year. We're still living in an RV, but we're raising and butchering turkeys and chickens. And by the way, we also learned that I can sell a dozen eggs for $5 or I can sell a baby chick for $5. So we also raise baby chicks and sell them, and that covers the cost. By the way, don't be upset when your farmers are charging you $5 a dozen. It costs us about $3 to get that dozen eggs.
Yeah. And you know what? It has been such a blessing because we began this search going, oh my goodness, what will we do? What would we do if we couldn't get the food we need? And now we can bring peace to other people who maybe don't want to have a farm. They don't want to clean up after animals. And we can be a local resource that they can come to. And guess what? When they step foot on the Double K farm, you know they're going to get a little message about keto. Yep. Right? We're going to spread this thing.
That picture down in the corner, that chicken thinks it's a turkey.
Yes.
It literally lives in the coop with 35 turkeys. And every time it's sitting eggs there with the mama.
Yes.
So we're not done yet. Next up, actually, when we get home from this cruise, we're going to start raising kuni pigs, which is a red meat, sweet-tasting pork that grazes on grass. They don't root. They graze on grass and go in behind the chickens and spread all the chicken poop around. We're also going to begin raising hair sheep because lamb.
Yes.
But here's the thing. We're not trying to scare you.
You do not need to start a farm.
You don't need to be two idiots like us and start a farm and not know what you're doing.
No.
If you do want to learn about our farm, though, we do have a YouTube channel. It's called the Double K Farm. You'll find it at the 2KK Farm. But we do want you to ask yourself, is your way of eating truly sustainable?
And really, that's just, if you go to the next one, no kidding. No kidding. You really need to think about it because we want you to make this life a way of life. It's not a diet. How many people have learned keto is not a diet? Carnivore is not a diet. This is not a fad. This is life forever. And we do want you to be able to support what works for you for the rest of your life.
So is keto and carnivore sustainable? Absolutely. It is sustainable. There's people that have been in here that have been doing it for more than 10, 15 years. I mean, I don't know if Maria's in here, but I mean,
woo-hoo!
How long, Maria? How long? 28 years. I think it's sustainable.
It's sustainable.
Okay, it's sustainable. But if we only are looking at the local grocery stores, it may be a little less sustainable. So the whole purpose of this was to reach out to your local farm. Also, it is completely, I will say there's one way that the keto and carnivore lifestyle, in our personal opinion, is not sustainable, and that is without community.
You need to do it in community.
And so we actually, oh, it's not working. Hit the space button. Boop. Or not. There we go. So we got encouraged because we love the community from the low carb cruise. And so a couple of years ago, we came up with this stupid idea to have a community cruise. It was kind of like Autumn's Things for Keto Palooza. It was a one-time deal. And then at the end of it, everyone's like, when's the next one? So now it's become an annual one.
Yes.
And so this year we're actually doing 2 because everyone's like 5 days isn't enough. But some people don't want to go on a 7-day cruise. So December 4th through the 8th and the 8th through the 13th, we're doing a back-to-back cruise. So it's a 4-night and a 5-night out of Miami on the same cruise ship. And the cool thing is you can go on the first one, the second one, or both of them. If you go on both of them, we can arrange for you to be in the same cabin. And then you get to leave all your stuff on the ship after the first one. And as you walk off, Royal Caribbean's going to hand you your card key for the second one. You turn around, get your face scanned, and turn right back on and get back on the cruise. And you get to spend 9 nights with us.
That may not be a selling point.
But there are a lot of people here that I'm doing it. So if you have questions about it, ask people like Andy and Jennifer and people who have been on our cruises. It's only about community. It is not the low carb
We are
cruise.
not as talented.
We're not as talented as Debbie and Kathy.
And Michelle.
But it's just about hanging out and having a good time. And this is where you could find us.
Yeah, we will share the slides later, but yeah, Two Crazy Ketos, campers, the 2KK Farm. And if you're looking for a community, we have a Mighty Networks group is members.twocrazyketos.com. And we just want to say a great big thank you Thanks for being with us today.
This is the perfect time to do that.
Yeah. How many people actually needed to hear that?
Yeah, truly.
If you watch our channel, you'll know. I say all the time, like we say the scale is the devil and the mirror is the liar. The reason I say the mirror is a liar is because when I look in the mirror in the morning, I still see the 330-pound Joe.
Yeah.
I still see that. So listen to him like, oh yeah, that's probably not a good thing. We need to start changing the way we see ourselves in the mirror, in the clothes. That's why we always tell people like, hey, if you've got old clothes that don't fit anymore because they're too big, throw them out. Stop having a fat part of your closet because you're giving yourself, oh, I'm going to go back to that one day. I also love the way somehow every low carb cruise, all the speakers talk kind of intertwine with each other.
They really do.
Like you had Bronson, like fake it till you make it. You know, it's just like everything kind of builds on each other. And it's not planned, by the way.
It's not planned, but that's just
So awesome. And the environment really adds to that. And
if you are interested in continuing to cruise, how many first-time cruisers think this is my last cruise?
Oh, I'm so glad.
That's
how it was for me.
I felt like cruising on a cruise. And if you are interested in more information about next year's low carb cruise, you can just go to email info@lowcarbcruise.com.
Yeah, you can go over to the Low Carb Cruise website. We're sailing out of Galveston. That's a Western Caribbean, right? So same as a couple years ago where we're going to Cozumel, Costa Maya. If you want some really good cheap $20 massages, go to Costa Maya. And then you can go to, where's the other place we're going, Debbie? Roatan.
Beautiful.
I'm just very started updating the website for next year, so ignore the last stuff and just go with the new.
So, and I will say that
we have a question session immediately following Dr. Linskis's
talk with both Dr. Linskis and Dr. Vega.
So jot down your questions
now while they're fresh in your mind.
This is such a blessing to be able to have the doctors in the house. So don't be shy. They're here. They came all the way.
You're locked on the ship with them.
Yeah. They're here to see you and they cherish the opportunity to answer your questions. So jot this down.
So next up, we have Dr. Brian Lenskis. Dr. Brian Lenskis is an internal medicine doctor based in San Diego who has focused much of his attention on clinical nutrition. Professional speaker in the health and wellness sphere, Dr. Lenskis also hosts the Life's Best Medicine podcast and co-hosts the popular Low Carb MD podcast, which has a total of more than 5.3 million downloads.
Wow.
Talking today about why your microbiome